Hello friends, welcome to Science Education, and in this video today we are going to learn second law of thermodynamics. A simple statement of second law of thermodynamics is it is a law of nature that explains direction of energy flow. This is just a simple statement but understand second law of thermodynamics we need to have clear understanding of few concepts first. So we are going to start our session with understanding the limitations of first law of thermodynamics, why we needed to have second law in place. So to understand that we need to have clear understanding what are the limitations of first law, then what is spontaneous and non-spontaneous process, then what is entropy, heat engine and heat pump, and at the end we are going to learn second law of thermodynamics. So understanding these concepts clearly will help us understanding second law of thermodynamics. So in our last video we have already covered first law of thermodynamics. So the statement of first law of thermodynamics is that it is a law of conservation of energy. That means energy can neither be created nor it can be destroyed, but it can be transferred from one form of energy to another. To understand that, let us suppose we are having two systems with us with a temperature difference. That system A is at 100 degrees Celsius and B is at 0 degrees Celsius. So if we bring these two systems in contact with each other, what will be the spontaneous process that will happen here? So system A, as it is at higher temperature, so it will start releasing the heat. System B, and system B will absorb that heat. So the process heat will flow from system A to system B, and this process will be completely spontaneous, or there is no need to perform any additional action. So we don't have to do anything, as this process is spontaneous. So heat will flow from system A to system B, and until when this heat transfer will take place, so until both the systems achieve the thermal equilibrium. So thermal equilibrium is nothing but there is no temperature difference, both the systems are at same temperature, and due to that same temperature heat transfer will stop. So this is normal workflow, that heat flows from body which is at high temperature towards the body which is at lower temperature when the both bodies comes in a contact with each other. Now if we try to fit the statement of first law here, so during this workflow or during this process, energy has neither been created nor it has been destroyed, but whatever energy that system A has lost, equally energy has been absorbed by the system B. So since system A has lost heat energy, due to that temperature has been reduced to 50 degree, and whatever heat energy that has been lost by system A has been absorbed by system B, and its temperature raised from 0 degree to 50 degrees Celsius. So first law of thermodynamics stands true here. Now, so is it possible that system B will start losing the heat again and system A will start absorbing the same heat, and this situation arises that system B is at 0 degrees Celsius and system A is at 100 degrees Celsius? Is this process feasible, or is this process occur spontaneously without doing any external help, or with keeping all the surrounding atmospheric, all the parameters like surrounding temperature and all this, that keeping constant or same? Will this process be a spontaneous, or will this process feasible? So if we try to fit the first statement of first law again, then again it will fit perfectly, that whatever heat system B is going to lost, system A is going to absorb, and energy will neither be created nor it will be destroyed. But is this process feasible? So answer is no. This process is not possible without any external help. So this process is not spontaneous process. The spontaneous process is only the heat flow from body which is at higher temperature towards the body which is at lower temperature. So the limitation of first law is it does not talk about feasibility of a process or direction of energy flow. In which direction the energy will flow. The first law does not talk about anything. So it is the main limitation that first law of thermodynamics have, is it does not talk about the feasibility of a process or the direction in which the energy flow will take place. So due to that we needed to have second law of thermodynamics, and that's why it is called as law of nature, because it talks about the feasibility of process or the direction in which the heat flow will take place. So we can conclude, or we can say that in nature whatever the process happens spontaneously obeys both first law of thermodynamics as well as second law of thermodynamics. That's only the situation where the process will take place spontaneously without any external help only when it obeys both first law and second law of thermodynamics. So that was the limitation of first law. Now let us understand what is spontaneous and non-spontaneous process. So the definition of spontaneous process, it is a process that has tendency to occur by itself or with little push. We can have many examples, so we can observe many processes happening around us or occurring around us. Most of them are examples of spontaneous process. Few of them I have picked here is like heat transfer between bodies at different temperatures. So whenever there is temperature difference between two bodies and they comes in a contact with each other, then the body which is at higher temperature start to lose its heat and same heat gets absorbed by the body which is at lower temperature. So that is also spontaneous process. Then water flow down the hill. So we don't have to do anything additional for that water to flow through waterfall. It flows by itself. This is also example of spontaneous process. Then when a hot cup of coffee we place at room temperature, then heat from the coffee gets transferred to the atmosphere. It happens by itself. So that is also example of spontaneous process. Then one more example, but here in this case we need to give some little push for this spontaneous process to occur is a burning of coal. So whenever we just have to ignite the coal initially. So once we successfully ignite the coal, the remaining burning process completes it by itself. So that is also example of spontaneous process. So there are many natural processes happening around us. All of them, like the process which occur naturally, is example of spontaneous process. One more is like rusting of any metal. So metal rod gets rusted by itself is also example of spontaneous process. Now what is non-spontaneous process? So as the name suggests, it is opposite to spontaneous process. These non-spontaneous processes are those which has tendency of not to occur by itself, or if we want those process to occur or happen, we have to provide continuous energy input. And the example of non-spontaneous process is a refrigeration system we are having in our houses. Example of non-spontaneous process. Here we are extracting the heat from the substances placed at inside the fridge. So those are at lower temperature compared to the surrounding. So we can assume that surrounding temperature is at 30 degrees Celsius. If ice is there inside the refrigerator, it must be at 0 degree or less than that temperature. So heat is continuously extracted from the ice, and whatever the heat that has been extracted by the refrigerator from the ice is continuously delivered to the surrounding. So this is non-spontaneous process. So for this process to occur, we have to provide continuous energy input, and that energy input we are providing in the example of refrigerator, we are providing it in the form of electricity, which later gets converted into mechanical work and so on. So this is example of non-spontaneous process. But understanding spontaneous and non-spontaneous process, the question is still there: why few processes happen spontaneously and why few processes do not happen spontaneously? And to answer that question, we need to understand one more thing, that is entropy. So to understand entropy, the basic definition of entropy is it is measure of randomness or disorderness in a system. For example, here we are having a container filled with two different gases and there is one partition in between them. So there is gas 1 and gas 2. It is much more completely separated by this partition. So we can say that as per the definition, this gas 1 or gas 2 is much more in ordered fashion, like it is completely isolated. So we can say that the gas molecules are completely in organized fashion. They are moving or colliding between themselves, but they are in ordered state. Okay, now entropy is denoted by the letter S. So assume the initial entropy at this point at 0. Now as soon as we remove this partition, what will be the spontaneous process that will occur here? So the spontaneous process that will occur here will be both the gas molecule will get mixed. So that will be the spontaneous process that will happen over here. So we can say that as per the definition, entropy is measure of randomness. So we can definitely say that randomness or disorderness has been increased. So we can say that whatever the entropy we had initially must be greater than 0 because randomness has been increased. So in this case we can say that the change in entropy, that is S final minus S initial, definitely going to come out to be a positive value because the randomness or disorderness at the final stage has been increased compared to the earlier stage. So earlier the gas molecules were much more organized compared to this final stage. So we can say that it has been observed, like for a spontaneous process or for any process to be spontaneous, the change in entropy should be positive. Okay, in any case or in any workflow, when there are chances that entropy is going to increase, then that process occurs spontaneously. That was about entropy. So few things I would like to mention here about entropy is, so it does not depend on path how you reached, but it depends on, it is a state function. Then second thing is, it is a extensive property. Extensive properties are the properties that depends on amount of matter. 1 liter of any fluid, whatever entropy it is having, definitely will be different than 2 liters of same fluid at same temperature or same parameters like room temperature and all that, but entropy is going to be different because it depends on amount of matter. Okay, and the last point I would like to mention is entropy of universe always keeps on increasing. Now let's move on to actual statements of second law of thermodynamics. So second law of thermodynamics explained in two statements, that is Kelvin-Planck statement and Clausius statement. So what Kelvin-Planck statement says is that it is impossible, in simple words, it is impossible to construct a heat engine that will convert all heat provided to work. So let us, I will draw a diagram of heat engine. So heat engine consists of, so this is the diagram of heat engine, wherein it consists of a heat source which is at temperature T1 and a heat sink which is at temperature T2, and T1 is greater than T2 for a heat engine to work. So when heat source is at high temperature and sink is at lower temperature, what will be the spontaneous process that will happen here is heat from heat source will start spontaneously flowing to the heat sink, and during this heat flow we have fitted one heat engine, and basic primary work of heat engine is to convert some part of that heat which is flowing Q1 towards heat sink, that is Q2, convert some heat into mechanical work or some form of work. Okay, so we can say that Q1, whatever the heat that has been released by this heat source, is converted into work plus Q2. Okay, so heat released from heat source is converted into work and Q2. So this is the statement. So happens with the heat, and as the temperature, there is temperature difference, T1 is at high temperature, source is at high temperature, sink is at lower temperature, so this heat flow is spontaneous, so we don't have to do anything, it occurs by itself. Now what statement says is that it is impossible to construct a heat engine that will convert all the heat provided to work. So whatever heat going towards this heat engine, okay, whatever input we are giving, so it is impossible to convert complete Q1 into work. It is impossible to convert total heat provided to work. Now let's try to find out the efficiency of this heat engine. So efficiency, formula of efficiency is output divided by input. So the output here is work and input we are giving is Q1. Okay, so we have calculated the W or work is equal to Q1 minus Q2 divided by Q1. So it comes out to be, Q1 gets cancelled, 1 minus Q2 by Q1. So efficiency. So we can say that efficiency is equal to, we are subtracting something, this term Q2 by Q1 from 1. So it is never going to be, as we are subtracting it is from 1, efficiency is never going to be 100%. So the statement stands true that it is impossible to construct a heat engine that will convert all heat provided to work. If we still want to make the efficiency 100, what we have to do is, we have to make this quantity as 0, and to make this quantity Q2 by Q1 we have to decrease the amount of heat rejector or make this term as 0. Whatever heat getting released to the sink, we have to make it 0 to make this engine work 100% efficiency. And making Q2 at 0, we have to remove this sink. And if we remove this sink, will this process be possible or will this spontaneous process will occur? So that is never going to happen, because if we remove this sink, heat source is never going to transfer, or where it is going to transfer the heat. If there is no heat sink, there is no temperature difference, then how is this possible that heat source will start releasing the heat? And if there is no heat transfer or there is no heat flow from heat source, how heat engine is going to convert this whatever heat that has been rejected by the heat source, how it is going to convert that into the work? So the statement, I'll read the statement again. It is impossible to construct a heat engine that will convert all heat provided to work. So this is never going to be 100%. So if it is impossible to construct a heat engine that will work with 100% efficiency, so that heat source can reject some part of heat to that sink and fraction of that heat will get converted into work. That was the Kelvin-Planck statement. So here, this is the diagram of heat pump. So what Clausius statement says is that this is non-spontaneous process, that is transfer of heat from cold body to the hot body, or body which is at lower temperature to the body which is at higher temperature. And if we want that process to happen, we have to continuously provide a work input. The example is refrigerator. We are continuously providing input in the form of electricity, and then only it is able to transfer the heat from cold body or the system which is at lower temperature to the system which is at higher temperature. So that is what the Clausius statement, what it says. It is without consuming any work, it is not possible to construct a system that will transfer the heat from body which is at lower temperature to the body which is at higher temperature. So guys, these two statements forms a second law of thermodynamics. So that was all about second law of thermodynamics. And if you liked our video, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you.